I notice when it comes to executives, there seems to be, especially if you look at CEOs, I think there's a very strong bias or at least a tendency that a lot of the people in those positions have a background in marketing or sales. And I'd
Yeah.
be curious to know if you're having a sales background, does that give you the advantage to get to the top of a company?
Well, absolutely. I mean, in terms of you can sell things, in fact, I think more CEOs need to do that. There's been a bigger trend where most CEOs are now coming from being a CFO. Very few CEOs are from marketing. Very few. It's almost unheard of to do that. You really have to have a sales background, or you have to have P&L background. You have to really have some strong P&L background. But you can overcome that if you're in the sales side of it because you really know how to deliver the top line. Top line growth is important in any company. If you're not growing, you're dying. And so that's that's an imperative. Especially you see that more in smaller companies, mid-size, mid-cap companies, than you see in the Fortune, say 500, Fortune 1000. There's not as many salespeople at those roles just because of the intricate nature and the complicated nature of those companies. So that's why you typically see people with a lot more background, a lot more experience. Even myself, having bought and sold hundreds of companies before I became the CMO of a Fortune, 100 company. I'd been a head of sales and marketing at a couple $1 billion company. And we had about 100, we bought 118 companies. So, and rolled it up, went public. And then I became, the chief marketing officer of a much bigger company. It's like, and by the way, that's not an easy thing to do because, I'm sitting around making $1 billion decisions or certainly $1 million decisions. And I would go like, well, how am I supposed to make this? Well, I just take the zeros off. And I say, was this a good decision back in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where I'm from? And that's how I made my decisions. If take the zeros off, it sounded like a good sound decision, even though it might be millions of dollars or impact a lot of people. That's how I made those decisions.
I'd say besides the background in sales, we're talking about a certain type of individual can thrive in these positions. It sounds like there's some psychological resilience that is necessary. Is that something that you absolutely have to nurture before you even consider yourself wanting to be in this kind of position?
Or you better develop it pretty quick. It's a dog eat dog world typically in those positions. While the 3 or 4 key officers might be aligned, not always. There's things that occur. Certainly, those that report into us and around us are, trying to work their way up. So that you take a few knives thrown at you, a lot of shots thrown at you, and a few in the back sometimes. So you have to, at that level, you have to be pretty strong in your own values of who you are. Right? You said that, you complimented me. I appreciated that. I'm lucky that in my life, I kind of grew up knowing these are the things I believe in. These are my strong convictions. Now, sometimes that's not easy to do. I can remember the first 3 days on job, I made a decision and I got called up to the CEO's office. First time I'd seen him since before he hired me. And he called in to, I made a decision based on something, let's go with this. And it was some language that was used in a video that was shown at a Wall Street Journal conference, which also made the national news and was featured on CBS. And in there, it used the word cojones. Okay. Like the guy's got cojones. And so I ran it by the women's group saying, hey, are you okay with this? And the execs that brought it to me, and by the way, this was done before I even got there. So they presented to me and said, will you okay this? And I said, well, I want to hear from the women's groups in our company that we don't get in trouble because we're talking about men's testicles here and we're using the word cojones. So I want to make sure everybody's okay. Hey, listen, head of brand, you're a woman. Hey, you're a woman. Hey, bring the women's group. Everybody okay? Everybody's okay. And I said, go with it. And it was a huge hit, except that I got called up to the chairman's office and he said, hey, Jeffrey, sit down. I said, no, I can stand. He goes, no, sit down. I knew right then this was serious. He goes, Jeffrey, do you understand the meaning of the word cojones? And I said, well, I think I do. He says, I don't think you do. He goes, see, I'm from Spain. You are not. And the word cojones is the most guttural word that you could use for a man's anatomy. It is like using the C word to describe a woman's vagina. Do you understand now? I said, yes, sir, I do. He said, did you get this okayed before you released this vile video? And I said, no, that was my decision, solely my decision The team brought it to me. I checked it out with the women's groups. They said it was okay. I let it go. He goes, did you check it with the Hispanic groups? And I go, no, sir, I did not. He goes, there you have made your mistake. That is one. Do not do that again. So, it's like, boom. So that's when so, I mean, I was literally almost throwing up, right? I'm a 40-some-year-old man. I'm head of a, marketing for a multi-billion-dollar company, blah, blah, blah. And I'm getting addressed down, in the chairman's office, okay? On the top floor, in the, boom, had to go through security, the whole bit, even for me. And I report to the guy. And yeah, that's high stakes, right? That's high stakes. And so, but I learned a lesson, right? That was my lesson. Okay, now I won't make that mistake again, right? But in the end, he taught me as I learned other things. Did anyone die? No one died. Okay? Could it have been better? Yes. And so that's got to be that's always one of my rules. Did anybody die, right? Did we violate? Did we do it on purpose? Was it intentional? These are the things you want to kind of look at. And he knew my actions weren't intentional, but he was letting me know that was a serious infraction. That's a serious thing. Do you understand? You hold the company's, vision, mission, brand, the essence of the brand. If you make a mistake like a Bud Light, if you make a mistake like the new Coke, if you make a mistake like the new Netflix, right? And that's that, Jeffrey, you will be on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. And more importantly, you will have me on the front page of the Wall Street Journal explaining why I fired you. So, that's the way it works, man. And by the way, when you're in those rooms like that, that's high stakes. That's what it is, and you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And, I've learned in my career, that's at that level, that's the way you play.
Man, terrifying and exciting at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, and you're doing things sometimes, Jason, and you don't know that if it's right. You don't know. I'm making decisions about stuff like, I made one decision where we did a big commercial. It was on Celebrity Apprentice. I was a judge on Celebrity Apprentice for 3 years. And we made this big decision and we put out this campaign and literally spent millions of dollars on this texting campaign. And I walk in on Monday after we launched it and we had 2 texts. 2. 2. Not like 2 million, 2. And then I had to say, well, what the hell was wrong with this campaign? Well, we ask everybody to text in a motion picture theater. Well, what do you do when you walk into a motion picture theater? You turn your phone off. So, what idiot came up with that idea? I did. But I put it through an entire group of marketing people, some 30-some marketing people, and no one raised their hand and said, Jeff, what do you do when you walk into a motion picture theater? And I said, well, you turn your phone off. I said, where the hell were you when we came up with this decision? And then I remember I turned to everybody and said, did anyone die? No one died. So now someone will die in this room if you don't get this thing fixed, right? And, because I've got to go before the board of directors. I got to go before the chairman of the company and explain why we spent millions of dollars on the campaign. We got 2 texts.
Was that the moment?
Yeah.
Was that the moment when legal and HR walked in again?
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's like that kind of thing.
Thank you so much for listening to the Selling with Love podcast. We have some previous episodes you can tune into right here. And if you prefer the short form content where you get to the point in under 10 minutes, we do have a ton of clips from our best episodes that are being shared on this channel as well. So pick which one supports you the most. And of course, thank you for liking, subscribing, and of course, selling with love.